and welcome to our week in review for this week, where we are going to be taking a look at the market together as we do every week. And we start from the US dollar currency index usually because the US dollar is the most traded currency in the market if we are looking at the Forex market. And it has impact on almost all the other currencies. So I'd like to take a look at it, see what's happening with it, and it helps me have an idea of how I want to trade it with the other currencies. And then it can also give an undertone in the way I trade some other currency pairs as well. So what's happening with US dollar? Currency index on its own this week, this month. I'm currently on the monthly time frame, but before we go looking into the market, seeing what's happening there and how we want to trade, let's go take a look at the economic calendar for this week and see what we have in store or what is expected in the different economy, the high impact news that is expected. Remember, though, that if you have not subscribed to this channel, you want to do so right now. Subscribe to the channel, click like on the video, comment, support this. Let's know you're here. Interesting. And if you have currency pairs, instruments that I am not analyzing that you would like me to analyze with you in the time to come in my next videos, please do well to let me know in the chat and I will start analyzing them with you. Okay, so this I like looking at xm.com economic calendar, and that's a good way place that you can analyze. Some people like Forex Factory, there are different ones. I am just used to it because XM becomes my favorite broker. So if you're looking to trade and you're looking for a good broker, please remember XM is a good place to be. So you can register with the link below this video. There's a link below the video that you can use to register your live accounts. And if you have questions on how to set up your account, or you have questions on how to access free training, free coaching every day with experts from different parts of the world as a trader with XM, please let me know. I am more than willing to help you out. Okay, so let's move on. Today, we are expecting holiday in some part of the world. Japan, there's holiday, so maybe that may have some impact on yen, but well, the one that I have more interest in are the major events that are happening. So let's look at them. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we're expecting Australian dollar minutes, the RBA minutes meeting. Maybe from the minutes of the meeting, we can have an idea of some decisions that are made that may have effect on the economy. Then we have British pound, we have euro, British pound, we're expecting average earning index, claimant count change. All of this can also have some impact on the currency because we know that something that has to do with earning would define spending in the economy as well, and it could indicate things like inflation, things like what amount is in circulation and all of that, okay? Euro, we're expecting the CPI, US dollar, building permits, British pound, we also are expecting the governor's speech. So we have a lot, the BOE governor's speech. All right, so we have a lot coming up tomorrow. On Wednesday, we have something for British pound, Canadian dollar, and USD, and they're all high impact news as well. By the way, I have filtered this for only the ones with high impact. So if you see the ones showing 3 bulls here, that's the level of importance, and these are high importance. If you open the economic calendar on XM now, you're going to see a lot because the ones with 1 bull, low impact, medium impact, and high impact would all be showing there. So I have filtered it out. And how did I do that? I came here, click on filter, and you're going to see, if you scroll down a bit, where you can see 1 bull, 2 bulls, 3 bulls head, and the ones with 3 bulls represent the highest level of importance. So this is how I filtered it to come to this, would bring it down to the major or the most important news that would have effects on the market. Okay, so let's go. Thursday, we're expecting some very important news. ECB interest rate decision. This is going to have some major impact on euro. So I am paying attention to that. I would like to see what happens. So on Wednesday afternoon, depending on where you are, would help us determine what the new direction of euro is going to be, or if it is just going to continue the way it has been. Friday, what are we expecting on Friday? Let's see. Retail sales for British pound, and we're expecting a lot of PMI reports, British pound, composite, German, okay, euro is the one for German manufacturing PMI, but British pound, we're expecting composite PMI, manufacturing PMI, all of this help us have an idea of the inflation rate. And Canadian dollar, we're expecting the core retail sales, MOM. Interesting. So you see, we have a lot lined up for this week. Now let's go back to the chart and let's see what's happening. I'm on the monthly chart, by the way. I had this line here before indicating a resistance, and I was thinking that from that point, dollar was going to get a bit weak because I was expecting some correction. It corrected a bit, but what do we see after? Last month closed bullish above that resistance line, and now this month is also still bullish. Let's look at it by the weekly. Last week candle closed bullish, but with a wick on it. The candle closed with a wick on it, so we may see some level of weakness or correction with dollar at least the beginning of this week before it changes. Okay, so that's what I'm expecting. Dollar is all bullish. The major direction is bullish, but we may see some level of correction before we see continuation of the bullishness. Then how will this affect other currencies? Now I'm starting with Bitcoin. Let's see what's happening with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's been bearish for a while. It broke out of this support and then it got to this point. It's consolidated. But what do we see? It's kind of now playing a little bit above where that tight consolidation had been now. So this week is already beginning bullish, and I was looking at it that this is going to be bullish. I was looking at it from lower time frame, I think the 4-hour time frame. I'm expecting some bullishness this week, and I'm expecting that it gets towards this week. Okay, this week here, this week. So if that happens, that means that we'll be expecting it to get to around the 25,000 mark. We're around 22,000 now, and so we may still see some $300 movement to the upside. Let's say 3,000. That's what I mean, $3,000 movement on BTC to the upside. So if that happens, that would be a good buy for now. Maybe for the week, it's not. I'm not expecting this to be for a very long time, but at least for this week, it looks bullish for me in the short term. Okay, so let's move on. How about gold? What's happening with gold? Well, gold also got to around the support, but well, we still have space to the downside because it got close to it. If we are going to use the support as a zone, then we'll see that this is more like a support zone. See, it was the body of this candle that got here before. The wick was below, and then we have this. Okay, so now it is beginning to go up, and it may also still has a space to the downside. That's what I'm looking at. So it may come all the way down here before it continues retracing. And it may actually just retrace from here. Last candle is bearish. So it is possible that this will just retrace a little bit and then we see some bearishness again down here. But where I'm expecting now is that it is going to get to this down part of this zone, this support zone. And then we see some bullishness before we see continuation again. That's what I'm expecting. Now, the question is it a buy at this time or is it a sell? Well, for the short term, it's still looking like a buy as we are starting this week. But I am thinking that before the end of this week, it is possible that it goes down a little more before we now see that retracement or that correction to the upside. All right, that's it with gold. Let's look at oil. What's happening with the oil? For oil, it's got really bearish. It got really bearish, at some point. But what are we seeing now? What I say, okay, let's start it from the monthly as well. All right, so you would see that this had retraced to some area on the monthly. This is it. It got to like this small support of this range here, and it is pushing back up now. Well, I see that looking at it from fundamentals and everything, in the long term, it doesn't look like there is provision for oil to get very cheap, that the supply is going to increase. So if the supply doesn't increase, yes, we hear that, maybe there's going to be increase in supply. A lot of things are being done, but there is no indication that the supply is actually going to increase. So if the supply doesn't increase, that means that demand will get much more than supply every time, and that would mean increase in price. So we may see increase in price at any time. Also looking at the way last week had closed, yes, the week before had closed that way, but last week team moved down. But this move to the downside now is at a support level. Now it is beginning to go up, and I think this week is likely going to be bullish. Let's see the daily. So last week I'd even closed bullish, but the candles look exhausted. So all looking bullish for now in the short term. That's what I would say. In the short term, looking bullish, but in the long term, it can get continue bearish. In fact, in the long term, it should continue bullish. Let me put it that way, because the major direction is bullish. All right. But right now, is it the time for us to go all out for bullishness? Maybe seeing an engulfing candle on lower time frame will do the trick. Let's go to USD Canadian dollar. USD Canadian dollar. Well, for this one, last week, Canada increased its interest rate, and that is making me expect some bullishness with Canadian dollar. However, looking at USD is also really aggressive with their interest rates decisions, and it is also likely increasing. So which one gets stronger? That's the question. But for now, in the short term, I see Canadian dollar still getting stronger because I'm expecting some bearishness with US dollar. And if that happens, I would expect bearishness this week in Canadian dollar, especially looking at the fact that last week I closed with a pin bar, and that happened around a resistance. Okay. Let me place this properly so you would see that this was an initial support that now turned to a resistance at this point. The candle keeps touching, but it couldn't really break above. And what happened? Last week closed below it. So I'm expecting to see some bearishness for this week. GBP yen. Well, this is all bullish. It's still looking all bullish. All of this week above here on the weekly, we're making me to expect some bearishness for some times. And I did some sell in between. I went out again, and now this week, well, looking at last week, closed like an indecision candle, but the week above is longer. And the week before, all of them have had this longer week below them, which shows that the sellers are being rejected. Price keeps going down, but it keeps the lower price is being rejected. Let's just make it simple, especially for new people. And what are we seeing? An increase in price. So I'm expecting bullishness for the week with GBP yen. Euro USD. This one is big time bearish. It's been bearish for a long while, but last week candle closing like a pin bar around a support like this make me expect to see some short-term bullishness in Euro USD for the week. Let's see Euro British pound USD. Well, this one I'm also expecting some short-term bullishness, but it looks like as at the time I am doing this video, it's already getting to where I would have been expecting, because that was the support where it broke out from, and now it is back there. But it could also continue up. So I'm expecting some bullishness, but at the same time, I see that there's still space to the downside. This got broken out of the support, but now it is going back up, and it is possible for it to get down here before it continues up. But if it remains above, it closes above here on lower time frame, closes above this initial support, now goes above it and remains above it, I'll be expecting that it goes up a little more before we see continuation of the pairs, or maybe it's even going to be a change in direction. But I would expect for now on the short term, it's still looking bullish. Let's put it that way. Aussie USD, let's see. This also is bearishness that we see clearly on the weekly time frame. We see a breakout of here, and if you look very well here, we have this head and shoulder. Let me see if I can highlight that for you properly. So we have this head and shoulder pattern. See, so we have this head and shoulder pattern, and it got broken. The neckline here got broken, and it got broken, it retraced, and this is a continuation. If that head and shoulder is going to be fulfilled, then it means we still have a long way to the side, to the bottom side. All right, this is technically just looking at it technically, and fundamentally we also know that USD is really aggressive in their interest rate decision, so it may continue to increase its interest rate. See, this may come all the way down to around the 0.602 area, expecting that it gets there. However, we want to know that this is weekly time frame, by the way, and how did last week candle close? So this one is a long term. If I'm looking at, okay, it fulfills this head and shoulder and it comes all the way to around the 0.602, 0.601 or so in the long run. But now what is happening in the market? So let me remove this arrow first. Okay, so last week had closed like a bearish with a pin bar, which is more like a bullish pin bar. Okay, so in this case, I may see some correction. So I'm expecting to see some bullishness this week and then continuation down. That's what I'm expecting to see. So how do I trade it? If I am conservative in my trade entry and I'm a long-term trader, which I am, I probably would wait and see that this correct first, and then by the time it starts making move like it wants to continue, then I'll go in and do my trade. Interesting. Let's move on to NZD-USD. NZD-USD looks a lot like what we have just seen too. And it is bearish. However, last week had closed with a week below it, and it got to around this strong area before it makes that move. Now I'm expecting to see some correction. Correction may not be so deep, but looking at the fact that the week before had closed with an indecision candle, last week also closed this week, there's a lot of exhaustion shown around this area with the bears. It looks like the bears are exhausted and we may see some bullishness. So maybe for a short time, but I'm expecting to see some level of correction here before we see continuation. Okay. USD yen, well, let's look at that one. This one, the major direction we can see is bullish. Yeah, in the ones we've been looking with USD, we see that USD is the quote currency. This time, USD is the base currency, and you can see the strength of the USD apparent here. It is bullish. However, we may see some correction here, just as we are expecting with the other ones, before it continues up. But the major direction is up. Am I going to trade the correction by selling? Well, it all depends on the entry rules you have in place and how you want to trade it. For me, I probably would wait to see what happens with this, because a lot of traders that I know have been selling and trying to sell from around here. When it got to start making all of this move, it looks like it's indication that there's going to be a sell, and a lot of indicators too were pointing to sell opportunity. But what do we see? Last week had closed really bullish, so it is possible that this remains bullish for an extended period. But of course, we expect some correction, which may happen this week. And it is also possible that it will just correct very small and continue. So that's why I probably would just be waiting to see what happens. We also know that Japan is like one of the major currencies that hasn't been doing so much about increasing the interest rate, or making a monetary decision that would increase its currency. And we are waiting, we expect that something may happen anytime soon. And if that happens, maybe we are going to now see one long, bearish drop like that within a week. It is possible that we see that kind of move. So let's see and wait, and would have an idea of what happens next. And we can also continue to pay attention to news from Japan that may have effect on the market. Let's move on. USD CHF. This one, I'm expecting some bearishness this week. Why? Look at how last week candle had closed. We have seen some bearish move in the recent time. However, the week before last week had closed really bullish, but last week closed, it shows that the bulls are cannot sustain upper part here. It gets exhausted all the way here. In fact, it closed just by the upper part of the candle of last 2 weeks. That's where last week candle had closed, and it is just a weak candle. Like, it is fully weak, nobody on that candle, just the tiny part closing it. Okay, so what do we expect this week? Maybe we'll see some bullishness. It's possible, but I am expecting bearishness. So if I see movement in a lower time frame that gives me an access for a sell, or that fits in with my sell entry, then I'll prefer to do a sell. Euro AUD, let's take a look at that. Euro AUD, well, it's all bearish for me. All of this serve as correction to this bearishness. And last week, we see an engulfing bearish candle. Last week, at closed as an indecision candle. So what am I expecting? I'm expecting that it's possible that I see some bullishness in the short term. It goes up, then it continues down again. But the major direction for me still remains bearish. Euro Canadian dollar, well, this one, I'm also expecting to see some bullishness this week. So maybe it gets toward, let's see. Here. So around the 1.338, that's what I'm expecting that it gets to. But of course, there will be some resistance, some levels that we would see on the lower time frame, like from the daily. So this movement, that's what I'm expecting, bullishness this week, but may not be for an extended period of time. So Euro Yen, let's say, Euro Yen, also I'm expecting bullishness on this. The major direction is up. 2 weeks before, we saw this bearishness. Last week closed bullish. And because the trend is bullish, I would expect that this week continues bullish unless something happens and we see bearishness in between. But my bias for this week is looking for bullishness. Euro NZD, well, we see bearishness last 2 weeks. If I see a close below where I place my support line now, I'm going to look to continue selling. Why? Because this is bearishness for me. This is bearish, like sellers. Okay, so let me reduce the Forex grammar that I'm using, because we have very new people here. So these red candles like this, we know they represent sells in the market when the price is dropping. The green ones represent when the price is increasing. So we'll see that the major one we have here was a sell. We had this big pin bar here, and since then it's been selling. This shows down. These all look like correction, and then we expect continuation. However, last week candle at close as indecision. This week is beginning to be bullish. It is above. It is looking like it's remaining above my support line there. So if it remains above it, it's bullishness maybe in the short term, and in the long term it can get back to bearishness. But for now, it looks like in the very short term like a buy. Euro British pound, well, this one too, I was expecting to see bullishness here. Why? Because I have been paying attention to this movement, and I see that my 50 moving average, which is this black line that I have here, that's an indicator I like to use. It's been serving like a dynamic resistance since January 2021, when the candle on the weekly broke out and closed below that 50 moving average. So the 50 moving average has remained below there until recently in May, when we had this close above. It retraced a bit, it continues, and now in the last 2 weeks we had this big bearish candle, but last week closed bullish. But I was expecting that if last week bullishness was going to close above my 50 moving average, that would be a buy for me. But it did not close above it. It closed just below it. Now it's going down. But what do I say? I'm paying attention and seeing how this week moves. In between, I may find short-term buy or sell. But if this week would close bullish, then this will be bullish for me. I'm going to be looking to buy in the subsequent week for a longer term. But if this week remains below here and close even like maybe an engulfing bearish candle, then I expect that the sales continue. GBP AUD, let's take a look at this. We have in a consolidation, a range right now on the weekly. Last candle at close bearish, so this may go to the bottom of the range. That's what I'm expecting. So I expect to see bullishness, correction, and then bearish to see some movements down back to the support if it remains inside of the range, or maybe it even breaks out and continues down. But it's bearish for me in the major direction. GBP Canadian dollar all looking bearish, but it got to around the support now and it looks like it's pulling back. I'll pay attention to see how this is going to close this week, but in the short term, it still looks bullish. GBP and the NZD, well, this one for me is bearish. It's a sell. I sold it last week. Interestingly, I closed by Friday, and I'm happy I did that because I was able to go home with my profit. Now it is moving up. If I see a continuation to the downside in the lower time frame, I'm going to, of course, look to do another sell. But if it remains bullish and it closes above the 50 moving average, well, I may start looking to change my decision by next week. But this week, I'm looking at this start of this week, which looks really bullish like this, as just correction to the down move. So if this stops and I see a bearish continuation on maybe the 4-hour daily to lower time frame, then I'll look to continue selling. So that's it for me on British Pound NZD. GBP CHF. Well, this also looks bearish. We see that there's a support out of this range that has been broken now. Last week closed bearish, Now it is moving up. I see this as retracement, and I'm expecting to see continuation to the downside. Okay, I'm going to use this as the last one for today, which is AUD NZD. Well, AUD NZD having these 2 weeks, having a week, every week above them, above the resistance, usually that indicates itself for me. But however, we are seeing that this is ranging and now it is getting back to the resistance of the range. When it gets to the resistance of that range, I would probably prefer to sell. So this would be bearish for me in the week, as long as it doesn't close above that resistance. If it remains below it, it will be bearish for me. So I'll be looking from a lower time frame, maybe from the 4-hour that I like to enter from, to see a continuation candle for me to look for a sell. So this is how I come to the end of my discussion with you this week, as we always do, analyzing the market, looking into the weekly candles and seeing how what the outlook is like for the market for that week and what we are looking to do. So you may want to tell me what you are looking out for too this week. If you have some instrument that you trade that I don't look at in my analysis, please let me know in the chat box. If you're looking for that person that will hold you by the hand, help you learn to do trading right from basic to advanced level, then you are in the right place. Please reach out. There's a WhatsApp number below the videos. Click on it, reach out, and let's talk about what we can do with you. All right. So like the video, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so, and please have a beautiful and profitable week ahead of you. Cheers.